today we have Chrissia,
Yep.
who is a bee inspector, and she's coming to inspect our hives today and is going to talk us through what to look for. So just before we begin,
Yep.
what sort of things will you be looking for?
So we'll be doing a standard disease inspection, which is a really great thing to do at the start of any season, and ideally another 2 or 3 times throughout the year. We will be looking for any minor disorders on the bees themselves, so any of the adult bees, and I'll make you aware of those as I see them. So things like maybe any wing damage, any varroa damage, chalk broods, that type of thing. And they would be going through, we'll shake the bees from the frames to get a good look at the brood, make sure the larvae is bright white, curly tight, make sure all the cappings are uniform, that we don't have any signs of other diseases in them, and I'll let you know as we go along anything interesting that I find.
Okay, so what are there's 4 notifiable diseases, isn't it, that beekeepers should...
Yeah, so there's the 2 main notifiable diseases that we've got a legal obligation to notify. So that's our American foul brood, so our AFB, A4, after the cells are capped, and then we've got European foul brood, so E for early, EFB. We do get quite a lot of EFB locally. AFB, we have less of it down here. I think there were about 15 cases across the country last year, so much more rare, but still a notifiable disease. So those are our 2 notifiable diseases that if you're uncertain as a beekeeper, take a really good photograph, take a couple of really good photographs, message them to me or your local bee inspector, and we can make a bit of a decision whether or not we feel we need to come and do an inspection for you.
Right, okay, and then there's Trapilolax?
Yep, so two notifiable pests, so our Asian hornet, yellow-legged hornet. So we have had some cases fairly local to here, so a little bit further down into Dorset. Is it Swire? I never know if I say it right. And then quite a bit in the New Forest, and we've had primary and a secondary nest last year in Ringwood, so fairly close. So those are our one of our notifiable pests, the yellow-legged hornet, highly invasive non-native species, and then Tropilolaps and small hive beetle are some of our incoming threats that we need to be aware of for the coming, future concerns.
But they're not in the country at the moment?
No, not known to be.
Okay, so when you're looking for AFB and EFB,
Yep.
how will you tell on the frame
Yep.
what is it that you're actually looking for?
So for our American foul brood, we're looking for any uneven cappings, any pepper pot brood, any sunken, greasy looking cappings. Sometimes there's an odour, not everybody can smell that. It's not something that I've picked up on, so you're looking for something like that. It's our A for after, so these are capped cells that we're looking at.
After it's capped.
So it's after it's capped, the American foul brood, and we're looking, if we were concerned, we would do a little rope test. We'll pop a matchstick in or some tweezers, and it would rope up to about 6 mil, maybe a little bit further. It is really the only thing that ropes in that way, and then we would take a sample, pop it into a tube, and that goes up to the lab to be diagnosed and confirmed, or not confirmed hopefully. European foul brood, it's our E for early, so EFB, so it's the uncapped larvae before they're capped, so the E for early. We're looking for bright white curly tight larvae, but if there was a sign of disease, we would see maybe twisted larvae, misshapen or shrunken larvae, maybe a distorted. If you think about it being a gut disease, they're often reacting as though they've got a stomach ache, so they're twisting, contorting in the cell. There might be an odour, probably from a secondary infection, so different bacteria that comes in, and you're looking, if we do a gut analysis, we would see some evidence of an infection in the gut. So normally we see pollen in the gut, which is normal, but if you saw something maybe like a pussy teenage spot kind of colour, then that typically would be our EFB, and again we would tube that, send it to the lab, and they would confirm on a molecular basis.
Okay, but in terms of the beekeeper,
Yep.
they shouldn't be embarrassed if there's obviously good hygiene to support the bees, but this isn't necessarily something that they can avoid getting.
No.
Is that correct?
There are lots of things we can do to be better, or there always is, but we never know where EFB comes from. It could come from wild colonies that our bees are robbing. It could come from a really strong colony that are robbing our bees, so you could get your transmission that way. It might be that it moves across the country through purchasing bees, so I'd always say inspect your bees if you're going to purchase them, or ask if you can have a look to make sure that you're happy spending that money on those bees. So sometimes it's moving that around the country, and we can see that through strain analysis, so we can have a look at the different strains of EFB, and some are particular to different types of areas. And then when you go, oh, what's this one from Yorkshire doing down here, and you know, they've gone, oh, like, I've bought some bees recently and brought them down. So yes, we can always keep our hygiene really, really good. We can wash our hive tools between hives. We can be aware of what supers we've taken off of a hive and return it to the original hive. If we're going to see other people's bees, again, clean suit, clean wellies, clean hive tools, you know, just keep up on top of the hygiene.
Okay, but at the end of the day, you could just have robbing and then that's transferred in that way anyway.
Exactly,
so if anyone suspects it, they shouldn't be embarrassed.
No, not
Take
at
the
all.
photographs and then get some help.
Absolutely.
Okay, should we go and open the hives?
Can you reveal what's in your bucket?
Oh, my bucket reveal. So in my bucket today, we have got some fresh liquid, which is a soda crystal bleach solution. And in here I keep all of my tools, and it's deep enough that I can wash my hands. So my gloves are washable. It means if I was concerned, I can wash them, and it's going to get rid of that. So I've got a scrubby for cleaning all my tools, and another scrubby. I've got a number of different hive tools, just so it means that if I want to go between different hives, I can pop one back into the box. I've got a J tool. Everyone's got their favourites. I've got an uncapping fork, and you can see they're all coming out really clean. I've got some tweezers and a cork just to keep them stop myself getting hurt. So it's 4.5 litres of water, 1 packet of soda crystals, which are normally 1 kilogram, and into that I'm adding 150 ml of bleach. Obviously this isn't all of the solution, I've got some more in the car, so every time I go from apiary to apiary, I can empty this out safely and refresh and go to my next colony.
How often do you change the water?
Oh, okay, so I change this water every 24 hours. So I would come to an apiary with fresh water, and I would dispose of that by the end of the day and mix it up fresh for the next day.
What would you recommend a beekeeper change? How often would you recommend changing it?
I think technically the bleach solution is supposed to start to lose its efficacy after 24 hours. Right. But anything you can do that is going to improve your hygiene will be better than nothing. Right. But clean gloves, being able to clean them, and keeping on top of all that hygiene.
Perfect, thank you.
Pleasure. So I'm going to do a disease inspection on this colony today. We can see it's got a brood box. I think this is a super here, and we've got the roof. So we're just going to remove the roof carefully. We'll just check it and we'll set it aside safely. If we turn it upside down, we can set any of our supers and such into it. From a disease point of view, I'm not concerned about any supers, so I could just take them off. We might...
That's the brood box in the house.
Ah, okay. So lots of good information. I've assumed this is a super and just a brood box, but if this is a brood and a half, we're still going to take this one off first, and we're going to inspect the lower box first. Okay, so I've cracked the seal on that. I'm going to safely pop it just here in the box, so the queen isn't going to go on the floor, and we'll do this bottom box first. So I'm going to make myself some space. We've got a blanking board just here, which we can set out, and we've got a frame here with some food on, and I'm just going to set that to the side. So I'm using my hive tool to go in and break the seal. There's just food on there. We'll move the bees out of the way. So we're doing a look over the tops of the bees. We're looking for their general condition. We're having a look to see what their wings look like, if they're a bit small perhaps. There's no brood on here, so I don't need to look too much on that. So we've got some brood here. We can see it's quite dark, this brood, so normally the darker the brood, the closer it is to hatching. And your bees hopefully should be nice enough that you can just poke them out of the way. Uncapped brood here, so this is our bright white curly tight larvae. So from an EFB point of view, this is the type of larvae that I want to be looking at, because it's our E for early, they're not capped yet. So I'll just do a quick look over for the queen. I can't see her there, so I'm going to give her a little shake, just so we can see most of the bees, most of the brood, and the bees are removed. And I'm just doing a cursory look over all of the larvae to make sure there's no bloating, no yellowing, no sunken larvae. So there's one here that's just got a bit of split wing there, a bit of K-wing. You see that one? That frame looks fine. We just use the smoke just to move the bees away. So we move into the middle and up. So again, I'll do a quick look for the queen, cursory look over the tops of the bees. I'm just going to give them a little bit of a shake. So this is all mostly capped brood here. There's another one with a split wing. Just following that one around. But the cappings here all look quite nice. There's no little perforations in them, which might indicate Varroa perhaps, or something else that the bees want to have a look at. They're polishing all these new cells ready for the queen to lay into, but nothing of concern there. So again, a quick look over for the queen. We've got a drone here. You can see it's much bigger thorax. Again, just a little shake. So we've cleared most of the bees. I probably could have done a better job, but I can see the brood that I need to see. We've got some very young larvae here, eggs all the way to very curly larvae. So if I was looking for any like nibbles, it would be this type of thing that I would look for.
There's another one there,
Yeah,
isn't
so it never hurts just to have a look. So that one's fine. We've got an alive bee in there. And that's fine as well. We can always, if we want to use the tweezers to do that job, we can just go trace around the circle there. So we've got maybe a bit of sac brood in that one. You can see it's, you can just see it's kind of gondola shape there.
tail up instead of head up.
Yeah, exactly. And when you take them out, they tend to be quite thick. Off you go, little bee. They tend to be quite thick and bouncy, so they're unable to shed their fourth pupil casing, quite bouncy like that. Sometimes if we've got quite a lot of sac brood, as it breaks down naturally, people will mistake that for EFB, but it will slump down normally like a big fat tongue. I'm going to pop that into the smoker just so it's nice and safe. And we'll just do a quick trace round here. That's fine. Again, just a bit of smoke to move them away from the frame. So that's nice. We've got a bit of split wing again here, which can sometimes be a sign of Varroa. So often it can be acarin, which is a tracheal mite, but normally our Varroa treatments tend to get rid of those. Again, all this larvae here is bright white curly tight. There's no distortion in the larvae. and lovely capped brood, all similar ages. There's a little bit of holing in them. It's not quite pepper potty. Maybe there was a problem with these larvae that they've been hoiked out. But generally the comb itself looks really nice. It's not greasy, it's not shrunken back. That's all fine. Sorry, is that in your...
And just move it. I think
Nice.
it's going on the
So it's not important at this stage to see the queen, but if we did see her and we're marked, we might point her out. But really we're here to do the brood inspection. So again, we're checking all this open larvae for any signs of EFB. And again, they're all sitting perfectly well in their cells. And that's lovely capped brood on that side. And it's nice, we've got a bit of pollen coming in here on this one. So it's nice to see pollen as well stored on the outsides of the frames. That's really nice. So just food on that side. So we're coming out of the brood nest. I'll do a quick look over here just in case. Yeah, just an older frame. So if I was making notes for myself, I would count the number of frames of bees and I would count the number of frames that had brood. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 5.5 frames of brood, and then maybe 9 frames of bees. Bearing in mind we've taken some out that are empty, and we'll try and move frames all in one go to avoid squashing bees. It's not always possible if it's stuck up, but we can use our hive tool to help move things, which is really good. And if they're very stingy bees, using your hive tool is good also. So we'll pop the final one in. That's fine. So I know I've put it in the right way because we've got some brace comb just here, so I know that that's gone in right. And we can pop the last board in. Lovely, perfect. So we've got another box to go through, so I'll just give them a bit of a smoke here, just so I can pop that box on. Yeah, so if we gently move on, there we go, to try and avoid squashing bees, just square it up. There we go. And we're going to take the crown board off and we'll check for the queen. That's fine, but we'll pop it close to the front of the hive again.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah, of course.
The way you've done that, if
Yep.
the queen was in the top
Yep.
box here,
Yep.
may she have now disappeared into the bottom box?
She completely, yeah.
Yeah.
So if we're doing a disease inspection, we're not necessarily looking for the queen, but if you were a beekeeper and you were concerned, you're looking for any signs of eggs and young larvae, and we have seen some in the bottom box, so I know that she has been here recently.
Yep.
I've seen no queen cells at the moment, so if we were concerned we were queenless, we would look for the absence of any young larvae and eggs, would look for evidence of queen cells, and their general behaviour. They might be a little bit more grumpy if they were queenless, but yes, the queen absolutely at this stage could have run back down to the bottom, and I know she's not in the box here.
Good.
So some stores up here, so where we've got some castellations, I am still going to make just a bit of room. That's just food, and I'm just going to try and balance them. So just food there. So we've got a bit more brood here, and we can see that this, I will shake the frame in a minute for you, but we can see that this is much more yellow coloured compared to what we saw in the lower box. So I'd say this is a fresher laid, more recently capped, and sometimes it's where they're working fresher comb as well. So we're generally having a bit of a look.
Is it just foot traffic of the bees that causes it to darken?
Yeah, and pupal casings as well.
Okay.
So again, a lovely frame. We've got some cat brood in the middle. We've got some younger larvae going round to the outsides, and then we've got some very, very small larvae a little bit further out, and then we've got our food. So that's a really lovely frame.
And presumably these lines here are the wire lines
Yeah,
where they haven't...
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and you can see, so that's the tail end here, so
Yeah.
you can see that it's gone straight up. So if I was clever, I would swap my hive tool at this point for a J tool, but I'm stubborn. We'll just have a look. Just doing a quick look for the queen, but we'll give them a little shake. So we're looking for any irregularities in the hole. So maybe this one and this one is slightly not as roundly open as some of the others. That could be that they're just closing the cells up, or it could be that the bees were concerned, but we can always use our hive tool. Just have a little look, and we can see in there that the larvae is still absolutely fine. So they're probably just getting ready to cap that one up, and they'll continue to do so. Again, lots of activity up here. Really nice. So I'll give them a little shake again. So we can see some bees emerging. I move these ones out of the way. We've got lots of eggs as well in that side there. I always like to point them out to beekeepers just in case they're not sure what eggs look like. Yeah, just all in this section.
Difficult to see it on
Yeah.
the camera. See the larvae, but not necessarily the eggs.
Having a phone is a really good idea if you're doing an inspection, because you can take a photograph and zoom in. You can, keep a track of anything you're concerned about to send over to your inspector. Or it might be that you just want to share something fun with your beekeepers. So again, lovely yellow. And we've got, again, lots of eggs in this section here. I don't know if I tip that into the light, if you can see those a bit better.
Probably I'd better see post-production.
So I'm going to give that one a bit of a better shake, just so you can see some things that are interesting. We can see these raised cappings here, and we can see again just another little bit of sac brood. These raised ones are normally fine, so they might just be a bit of bold brood. It might be that they're drones in these cells, but the bees are just making them slightly bigger. And we can see that they're starting to get to pink eye stage in this one.
So that is bold brood, presumably.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
Is that something to be concerned of?
So it depends what you want from your bees. These bees will carry on, they will carry on pupating, they will reach maturity as bees, so that from that side of things there's not a problem. It might be that you're looking for bold brood as a sign of hygienic behaviours, and that's a whole different train of thought. Some beekeepers particularly don't like this, and some do because they think that the varroa will come out themselves. But here there's no concern, they will just carry on doing what they're doing. But it's nice to have a look, and if we hadn't shaken the bees out, we might not have seen this happen here. Again, a quick look over the bin. There's your queen, just there. So it's always nice to point her out if we see her.
Just for the film, the colour is irrelevant. It's just the colour pen I had at the
I
time.
was going to say she
I
can't
don't
be
have 5
genuinely
pens.
red,
No,
can she?
I don't have 5
But
pens.
if that was
I've got a red
that's
pen and a green pen, and that's it.
23.
No, it was
Will
last year's
you
queen.
raise good bees, red, so
Yeah,
1, 2,
23.
3, yeah, 23.
No, she's last year's queen.
So I'm just replacing the frames back. Obviously we've got the castellation, so I can't just pop them all into position. So we're just going to move them. Right, there we go. Nice, and that's in the right way. Again, so we probably had brood there maybe on 4 of the frames, and bees on maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops, sorry, darling, 7 and a half. So a nice number of bees there if we take into account what's in the bottom. They're probably ready, I'd say, for a queen excluder and a super fairly soon. So I roof down, she would have only gone into here, and we're just popping it all back together again. So we can see that my gloves, I've got a little bit of dirt on them, I've got a little bit of wax, so now I can pop those into the bucket and we can give them a little bit of a clean up. I'll get rid of this green. So I always have a bit of a metal scrubby, so I can give it a good scrub. She's going to go back into my cork so I don't hurt myself. And I can wash my hands so I'm nice and clean again. So just as a quick summary on this one, I'm writing up some paper notes that we'll transfer to our electronic records a little bit later on. So I've made a reference of our hive number, that it's a standard national but a brood and a half. I've made a note of the combs of bees, so how many frames of bees that I recall, so you can see if there's growth moving forward or diminishing number of bees, the number of combs of brood, any notes on any diseases. So I've said no disease noted from a statutory point of view. I've not taken any samples at all, but I have made a note that we had seen some bold brood, we saw a small bit of sac brood, and we did see the queen. So that's really all from an inspector's point of view, the notes that we would take, but as a beekeeper you might take some other notes, maybe about what your future plans are with a hive. Did you have any questions about your future plans?
Well, the future plans for this hive is that I always combine my hives in the spring unless I find a beekeeper that's lost hives and would need them. And I have found a home for this one, somebody who wants it. So I will be moving this hive,
Okay.
Which is why I haven't yet put it on to double brood. I know that they do need some more room, but they will be moved imminently. So do you have any advice or recommendations that I should follow when moving a hive?
Yep, so the normal BBKA advice for moving your hives will be to look ahead, plan your journey, plan your route, take into account your weather conditions and where you're going, that the site's accessible and easily, you can take the bees to them easily. I would normally double strap the hive, so one strap here, one here, and if I was going really, really extra, then I would pop another one across so the hive can't twist in the car if there is an issue, and it also means you've got lots of things to hold on to if you've got help moving a hive. Obviously block up the hive at the end of the evening. If you're moving early in the morning, then normally you're fine, but if it's in the winter, so say you're moving your bees to the heather, it might be darker at that point, so you might want some additional lighting, or think about your route better because you don't want to have to navigate any obstacles in the dark. What else would I suggest? Pop the hive into the car in the direction of travel, so if the frames are running that way rather than banging together, that's always really sensible.
That's great advice. And minimum distance?
You want it to be over the 3 miles, otherwise your bees are going to be returning back.
Right.
If you're not that far, then it might be that you close them up with some sappy grass or some leaves and make it look different with some different obstacles outside the hive. That sappy grass will eventually wilt down and they'll hopefully realise they're in a new position or a new home and not come back here. So that's always really sensible. If it was a really hot day, you might consider putting a mesh travelling screen underneath the roof so you can take the roof off and not overheating the car. But if they're in the car, most of us have got air conditioning, but think ahead where you're going and what the weather conditions are like.
Right, okay, lovely. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, thank you.